Okay, time for the Protestants to move again. Clearly this unit here wants to continue its march around here to get in position to attack there. I think the cavalry here almost certainly want to attempt to contact those. That's going to be quite difficult, so we'll move those individually in a minute. Here the Swedes here are going to push forward. I don't think they get into combat range just yet, but maybe for next turn. And similarly here, the German Protestants are going to rearrange their lines to try and get ready for combat with these guys here and come across the stream. For the German allies, probably the most pressing question is whether or not they want to attempt to do something against these guys. I think they probably do. These are Dutch-style cavalry, which don't get any great benefits for charging, but they can shoot. So I think they're going to move forward and attempt to cause some damage by shooting, and then hopefully that'll help them to survive the coming attack by the Imperialist cavalry. So I'll move the standard movements now and come back to you in a minute. Okay, for the German Protestants, a fairly straightforward movement. The infantry have straightened themselves out and sorted themselves out. They're no longer under artillery fire, so that was a fairly straightforward movement. I moved these forward a little bit to put them into range, so now this unit can shoot here. This unit, if you remember, still hasn't managed to move, so we need to attempt to get that to move again this turn. If you remember, it failed. It needs to wheel to line up with these guys here, and then move towards them. But I think maybe now we will move forward first, like so. Okay, and now we'll attempt to wheel here to get us somewhere closer. So we move to there, and we attempt to wheel, and we fail. But our commander is next door, so we can have yet another attempt to get them to wheel, and at last they have succeeded. So they wheel and then move into position here to provide support for the front line unit here. As I said, they can now fire at the unit, which will mean that there will be a morale test in a while. On the Swedish flank, I think this is the most important movement. This unit wants to move up to here and get in position to attack this unit. It could move 3 base Swiss like so to get to a position somewhere like that, and then change into line, but it would be facing this way here. So I think what it wants to do is it wants to make a bigger move, a full move, to somewhere around about this area, and then change formation from there. But to do that, that will mean that it'll need to do a second move. So I've repositioned the Swedish commander here to be able to use his command points to attempt to do that. If that succeeds without too many re-rolls, we might attempt to get these guys actually into combat, but they're going to need to do some manoeuvring white dice rolls as well, so it might be more tricky. So we'll start here. This unit can move up to 6 forward, so you can see it go right the way up to there, but he just needs to get level here with the unit, that unit. Okay, so he's now going to have a second turn, and second turn is an action test. So the commander uses one of his pips. He rolls the dice, and he rolls a 4. So the unit has got a second move, and now he rolls again to change formation, and that's an action test again. So he rolls another dice and gets 5. So the unit has successfully turned into line to face the other way and can move a short distance forward, like so. Because the unit has done a second movement, it cannot move into combat or into a situation where it would cause a morale test. That unit didn't have the movement to do it, but you can't in any case. So if you do a second or more movement, you cannot move into a combat situation. Meanwhile here, so this unit here is going to move forward like so. It is then going to wheel to face the stream, and of course wheel is an action test, so it rolls for that and succeeds. Okay, just to clarify, the unit has plenty of movement. It can move to somewhere around about here, assuming it succeeds. Now, if it wishes, it can attempt to cross the stream. So I think we will attempt to cross the stream. So remember, this unit, as the commander has got one command pip left, so he can attempt to get it going again. So it's going to attempt to cross the stream, and that's an action test which fails on a 1 or 2. Rolled a 6, so they have crossed the stream. And at that point, they now need. They can now charge into combat if they wish, and I think we will. We'll attempt to charge into combat. So that is again is an action test which fails on a 1 or 2 for cuirassiers. So it's failed. But the commander here still has 1 action pip left, so he can attempt to give them a second chance to get into combat. So he's going to do that. He's rolled a 6, so they have succeeded. So the unit moves into contact, and because the unit contact is cavalry, these effectively countercharge and line up like so. So the only other thing that we need to do is that the unit has moved more than 1.5 base widths. That's that distance there. So it now needs to roll to see if it has left behind its commanded shot. The unit's got commanded shot. Commanded shot help you if you are involved in any kind of firefight and things, but in this situation where you're charging into melee, they're not very useful. They help stop people charging you, but in this situation that's not going to apply. So they need to take an action test to see if they've lost their attached guns, and on a 3, no they haven't, they're fine. So now we need to attempt to move the other units up to support. So this unit here is going to attempt to move and place itself here. So first of all it needs to take an action test for being under artillery fire. So I think it's going to need to be lucky to do this. So first of all, for being under artillery fire, it fails on a 1 or 2. It succeeds. So it now moves forward like so. And now it's going to try and wheel to face that direction. So attempting to wheel, it rolled 2, it's failed. The commander is out of command pips, so he can't do anything about that now, and that unit will stop. So this unit is going to move forward and try to get into place here. So it's going to move forward to hit to like this, and then attempt to wheel to something like that. So it moves forward to there, it attempts to wheel, which is also an action test, and it fails. So that unit has managed to get into combat on its own. That ends the Swedish movement phase, and now we have for the first time the artillery and the morale test phase. So first of all, the Protestant player must assign his artillery. In a perfect world, I think that he would like to assign the artillery to support a morale test. This unit over here, this Scottish unit over here is going to take a morale test, and so the artillery here would, in a perfect world, fire in support of that. Unfortunately, it hasn't got the angle to do that. The angle is something like so, and you see it can get this unit, but not that unit there. So it's going to have to continue bombarding, and it'll continue bombarding that unit there and attempt to try and slow it down. For the first time, though, we do have some morale tests. So we have one here and one here. In this system, there are there's no firing and no melees and similar kind of situations. What happens is, when a unit is in a dangerous situation, it must take a morale test. Dangerous situations are within firing range of an enemy unit, in close combat with them, having units to your flank, particularly if you're infantry, is a dangerous situation, and also being under heavy artillery fire from a bombardment. In each case, the procedure is the unit that is in danger must roll 2d6 and must get a final score of 8. That's modified by various factors. If they get a score of between 4 and 7, then they lose one of their morale failures. If they get a modified score of 3 or less, then the unit is taken off the table, it's destroyed, it's routed. As a general rule, infantry units have 3 morale failures and cavalry have 2 morale failures. But some unit types have extra morale failures because they're just big. So for example, both cuirassiers and arquebusiers, which is the imperialist cavalry over here, these units here, they all have 3 morale failures each, whereas the opposing Dutch units, they only have 2. These infantry regiments here have 3, but the tercios here and the Swedish brigades here, they have 4 morale failures, and the big juggernaut early tercios of Tilly's army, they have 5. In all cases, the procedure is to roll 2d6 and modify the result by any factors that might apply. On first look, the factors look a bit intimidating, but you'll soon find that with a bit of common sense, it's easy to see which ones will apply, and you won't need to consult the table very often. So, for example, here, these cavalry are shooting at these cavalry here. Well, they'll have assistance from this unit here because it's alongside. That's called supporting fire. This unit, it's cavalry being fired at, which is a disadvantage, but it does have support and it is elite. So, for example, this unit here, it's going to take a morale test. It's going to get +1 because it's elite, +1 because it has rear support from this unit here, and then +1 because it is being fired at by cavalry. But it gets -1 because it is cavalry under fire, so effectively they cancel out, they're firing an equal effect. And also it gets another -1 because this unit will be providing support. So +1, 2, 3, but -2, so overall it gets +1 on the dice. So it rolls 2d6, and gets 9, goes up to 10. 8 or more is a pass, so nothing happens to that unit. This cuirassier unit must also take a test. Again, they roll 2d6 and modify the results. And again, you can probably guess the factors they're going to apply. The unit does not have any support. It is defending the stream, so it's going to get +1 for defending the stream. But the Swedish cavalry get something like a charge bonus for moving into contact, so that will be a -1. The Swedes would have gotten another -1 if they managed to get this unit in to help, and the defending cuirassiers would have got rear support if this unit had succeeded in moving up to somewhere like so, but it failed. So overall, it's a straight dice roll with no modifiers. So we roll 2d6 and we rolled +1. Not a good result. Okay, but luckily for the imperialists, their general is close by, and one of the things other things that generals can do is that once per turn, a commander can join a unit and give it a second chance to roll a morale test. It doesn't change the odds; it just gives them a second attempt to try and pass the test. The downside is that, of course, if the unit is destroyed in the second test, then the commander is lost as well. So this commander is going to join with them and give them a second attempt at passing the morale test. So the odds are the same. It's a straight dice roll, and they roll the dice, and they've rolled 8. So 8 is a pass, they've passed their test. So that's the end of the Swedish turn and Protestant turn, and now we will have the Catholic turn.